Well, hi there. I am Andrea Watkins, and if you're listening to this while juggling 3 patient calls, checking in a couple patients, taking a payment, selling skincare, and trying to catch your doctor in between procedures, you might be working in an aesthetic practice.
And I'm Blake Lucas, and this is Practice Land. This is not your doctor's podcast.
Welcome to Practice Land. This is Andrea Watkins, and we are here today to give you the best tips about how to tame the chaos and get shit done in your medical aesthetic practice. So today I am so excited, you guys. Becky Godsey is here, and she is the Chief Operating Officer over at Denver Plastic Surgery and Aesthetics. Welcome, Becky. Thank you so
Thank
much for being
you.
here.
Happy to be here.
Absolutely. So, I met Becky about a year and a half ago or so and have been working with them in their practice. And Becky, why don't you tell us a little bit about your history with Dr. Rogers and with DPSA? I know you've been there for like a decade. And so why don't you just tell us a little bit about that?
I came to Denver Plastic Surgery almost exactly 10 years ago. And I really wasn't quite in this industry, definitely not plastics or cosmetic. But I had a lot of advertising and sales background, and I had managed a healthcare nonprofit. And so I had a friend that worked in the office, and she felt like they had a need and started here kind of in a patient care coordinator role and was really quickly promoted to practice manager and then COO. So, yeah, I love it.
So, just as a little bit of background here, I did come to your guys' practice for microneedling and Botox, and I was just struck by how every single text, every single email, it felt like it was written by someone who knew the practice. It wasn't appointment reminder, press C to confirm your appointment. It was nothing like that at all. And so it was just this very rare experience that I had. And so I think this is a really great opportunity for our listeners of Practice Land. Most of our listeners, they're going to be our front desk people, our front desk staff, our patient care coordinators, our marketing team, and our practice managers and COOs. So I really want this to be a good opportunity for them to learn from you because you've done it so well. So take me back and just kind of like walk me through what clicked with your technology of how you could really utilize it to help support your team and your patients.
Yeah, well, we brought on our EMR right before I started in the practice. It was brought on by the practice manager prior to me. And I
Okay.
do want to say, like, the biggest part of an EMR when you're bringing it on is if you build it incorrectly, because you're really creating all of those kind of channels when you're bringing it on.
Mhm.
And if you if you do it wrong from the beginning, it's such a pain, and because it was done wrong from the beginning when I came into the practice.
So you can go back though. There is hope. All hope isn't lost if you did it
Yeah,
wrong the first
there have
time.
been many times
Okay.
where I just wanna throw it out the window, start with a brand new EMR so I can kind of create it how I want to do it, but if you've been through a transition from, one system to another in a practice, you know what that's like on your staff.
Yeah.
So I decided at some point, you know what? I'm just gonna slowly rebuild it the way I like it, and yeah, it's probably been more work, but it
Mhm.
has cost us less money, than starting brand new, but for probably 4 or 5 years, we were just using the automated texting and systems that were kind of, the very generic ones you're talking about that didn't really have our voice, associated with it, and it was one of my providers who came to me and said, "I I think I want to have, like, a little QR code at the front desk where people can scan it and they can see our, before and after guidelines for each individual treatment." And then that just blew up
Mhm.
into a much bigger project, because I was like, "Well, if I'm creating this on our website anyway, why not have it linked to the EMR?" So we went then.
So you're saying, just to be, like, super clear, you're saying she had the idea of why instead of handing them papers or telling them things they're gonna forget when they walk out the door, let's have a QR code that they can scan, and so from your when you guys started this conversation, you thought to yourself, "Well, if I'm gonna build this anyway, let's repurpose it in multiple ways of communicating."
Exactly. Because we all know as, practice managers, front desk team, providers, if we have a patient that shows up for a treatment and is like, "Oh, I have dental work tomorrow." You're like, "What?"
What the
Yeah, hello, I cannot treat you today. So, or,
Yeah,
I'm getting a laser treatment today, but oh, I'm going to Hawaii tomorrow. And by the way, I'm bad about wearing my sunscreen. Like, and then that's a
yeah.
wasted appointment.
Like, I've been using retinol every day, and I'm here for some sort of
Yeah, so
microneedling, whatever.
it was to protect our schedule. We wanna, obviously we want patients to feel educated and prepared and everything like that, but at the end of the day, if somebody walks in and they've done something that now we can't treat, we've lost that
Yep.
revenue, we've lost that appointment, I have provider sitting there twiddling her thumbs, everybody's annoyed. So,
Right. And the patient is annoyed too because they're like, "Well, I didn't know, and now I drove all the
yeah,
way here, and you just wasted my time," and that kinda also gives them a bad taste in their mouth because
exactly.
they're like, "Well, why didn't you tell me?" And they get pissed, and they're like, "I'm going
Yeah,
somewhere else," or whatever.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
So it
okay.
came
Love
from
this.
kind of that, we wanna prepare them, we wanna make sure they're not having dental work, using their sunscreen, stopping their retinol, anything that we need to do to prepare them those 2 weeks prior to the appointment. And then
Mhm.
also prepare them for, don't get lip filler the day before a big event. You're gonna bruise, things like that. So, it helps the patient experience, it protects our schedule. So basically, every patient gets their pre and post instructions. Um, when they book the treatment, there's a link. 2 days before, maybe 3 days before the treatment, they get a reminder, and we're still asking them to confirm in that reminder and stuff, but it's also they're getting the treatment instructions, and then, they're also getting them immediately after the appointment.
Right. So the first 4 or 5 years or so, you kinda use the canned messages that were in your EMR, and then you started developing these additional resources for your patients that help the patients and the practice, and then you decide, "Let's go into the EMR and let's make sure that all of our confirmation and reminder emails before and after the appointment, let's make them more personalized." So who was responsible for writing those? How long did it take you? Like, what was that process for you to develop these tools? Because for most people listening, you're using an EMR. It's 2026 now. And if your doctor has not transitioned from paper records, I would highly recommend that you do that first of all. But tell me about what that process was like for you.
So, initially, it was really me, building the pre and post-operative, or post-treatment, instructions. Obviously, that was had already been done by the clinical team, so getting those, uniform, uploaded, cute, pretty on the website, all of that. I have a great marketing coordinator, Erin, who helped me get all of that. We had to get it on the website first before we could start building the messaging, but the messaging was all me, and, I feel really strongly, like you were saying, I don't want the canned messages. I want it to feel personal, but we also everybody knows they're automated. Like most people understand. And so there's a fine line too with, I think, all this automation and texting. If you are over communicating, if the texts are too long, if it's confusing, if it's cumbersome, they're going to unsubscribe. As you know, you sign up for a discount code online and then they're texting you 3 times a week. You're like, stop, stop, and these texting has become so important in our practice for communication, appointment reschedules. If we have a patient unsubscribe, it really messes with our processes.
What's your cadence, if you know off the top of your head? So you're doing it enough to prepare them, but you're not doing it enough to piss them off and be like,
Yeah.
unsubscribe.
So, yeah, they get one, if they're not a new patient, I should say, they get one, email and or text when they book the appointment, another one 3 days prior to the appointment, and that's their reminder that's asking them to, like, click a button or send a number to confirm, and then, if they're a new patient, they're getting an additional email with new patient paperwork welcoming them to the practice and also hopefully a phone call from my front desk. But that's what's great about the system is if we get overwhelmed, if the practice is busy, if we miss that somebody's scheduled online and is a new patient, it's not going to completely ruin our process. It's not getting stopped right there. They're still getting all the information. And then after the appointment, immediately upon checkout, they get another text that says, "Thanks. Here's your pre and post care link once again." everybody gets a text that day of the appointment at 7 p.m. that says, "Thank you
Mhm.
for coming into our practice. And if, you're happy, please write us a review." There was a lot of research done on like the appropriate time. I don't know about you, but I've been to the dentist and I'm getting the link like as I'm walking out of the appointment, and you're just like, "I'm running to work. I don't have time for this." And 7 p.m. was kind of the time where it's like, okay, you're home, you're maybe have just finished dinner, you're sitting on your couch watching a show maybe, and then if you get it,
Or you're watching your
yeah.
baseball practice like
That's
you and I
yep.
see every day.
So it was kind of a research time of like, this is a good time to send this. What people actually, because as much as I love if you just click and give me 5 stars and don't write anything, thank you. But like, I want you to write a personalized review. And so our surgical patients do not get this text. The surgical cadence is a little bit different, but all of our aesthetic appointments get a 7 p.m. text. And the way the system is built, if you're coming in every month for your hydrofacial and your BBL laser and you're only going to get this text every 90 days. So you're not going to get it more often than that.
Put a pin in this, take a pause. If nothing, no one takes anything more away from this episode, which would be silly, then this point is 7 p.m. Have your automated review request text go out at 7 p.m. The research has been done. Becky's telling us here and now it's 7 p.m. at night. Have it the night after your appointment, after they're really happy, they had a beautiful experience with your front desk and with your providers, so that they can hopefully, while they're kicking around in the evening, leave you that review while it's fresh in their mind. So what do you think? We talked about cadence, we talked about the review the night of, and then you said you were starting to say for your surgical appointments, what's that look like for, is it like after a 4 week post-op or after a 6 month post-op, or when does the review go out request go out for your surgical patients?
So I don't send an automated one to them. We give all of our surgical patients a gift card to come in for aesthetics. So they would get one at that point if they did. But for us, that's a very personal conversation. Number one, the healing process is tough. I've been through surgery myself. There's times where you're like, oh my God, I thought it would be better than this, or it's definitely like a flow. And so you don't want to be asking, and everybody's is different too. So some people are like high on life the first 2 weeks because they're just so happy. And then they experience the lull. Some people have a really hard time in the beginning, and then so you want to hit people when they're in the happy place, obviously. We ask in person. I mean, we become best friends with our surgical patients. We see them all the time. We want them to come in the office for more than they need, probably post-operatively, because we really want those touch points. We want to make sure they're okay. And we feel really strongly too with the healing process. We want to be ahead of any potential, issues or infections or things like that. So my PAs really do talk to these patients all the time, especially those first couple weeks after surgery. So we know if they're happy, we know if they're having a hard time. Um, and anytime somebody's happy, it's the first thing that comes out of my staff's mouth. Like, hey, would you mind? And we have some really great patients who are so happy they'll be like, I really want to take the time to write a good review, and they spend hours on it. It's so lovely. And
Yeah.
but I feel really, really strongly that the best time to ask for a review is when the surgeon is in the appointment.
The research does show that the surgeon, being a part of the ask, gets the best
Oh,
results
yeah.
100%. Because the patient, as a patient, I've been a patient, that's how I got into aesthetics, and as a patient, I remember just thinking, your hands changed things about me that I was very vulnerable about, that I couldn't do on my own. There was nothing more that I could do after losing 110 pounds that I could do on my own, that surgery couldn't. And you're so indebted as a patient to your provider, that making sure the provider feels comfortable saying, would you mind sharing your experience with other patients that are looking for someone? It really is critical. And that sets the stage so that when your team does send the link, or when we do show them the QR code, that it's okay.
Yes.
So I agree with you wholeheartedly on
Yeah,
that.
there's nothing, I mean, having been through it myself too, it's like you feel like this person changed your life. And so when the PA or nurse or medical assistant are asking, you're like, sure, sure, okay, I'll get to that. But when the surgeon looks you in the eye and says, "Oh, I would so appreciate a review,"
Yeah.
done. And it's a better review that way.
100%. I agree. So no automations on the surgical review request because we do
Correct.
that in person, which I love and I agree with wholeheartedly. For the non-surgical, it's going out at 7 o'clock at night.
Mhm.
And that's automated. Just they check out 7 o'clock that night. They're gonna get an email, which I got one too. And I was like, I think I probably was, well, I was probably working, unfortunately, but I definitely went on there and I was like, yep, leaving them a review, had a great experience, because it's like you're out of the hustle and bustle of your normal day.
Yeah.
So, how did you formulate the verbiage that you ended up using? Because again, I think it's very warm. And yes, to your point, I know that it's an automated message. Raquel or Sam did not sit down and type me that message because they love me so much. But how did you come up with that? Just, I mean, you're very personable and warm just as a human being. So it was probably pretty natural for you. But what was your process?
Yeah, I think like something that stands out about my practice in particular, I mean, we're all women, but we're like we have such a good, like, caring team, and
Yeah.
everybody's so friendly. Sam and Raquel are amazing, my girls up front. They know everybody's
Yeah.
name. They, "How was your trip?" And so I wanted it to feel like us, and, those automated generic ones just didn't feel like us. So I definitely wrote it in my own voice. We wanted to keep it down to just a couple sentences. We don't want it to be too long. We wanna get out the information we have to get in there, like, you please confirm, we have a 24-hour cancellation policy and here's your post care. And so, yeah, I definitely that there's a place where I used AI for sure. Type it in,
Uh-huh.
chat GPT, then say, no, I don't like this, make it sound more like me. That's where you can use, like we were talking about automation, that's where you can use that and tell it, no, I don't like that. That sounds generic. Like, do it again, make it sound
That's too stuffy for the culture and vibe that we have in our practice, or it's not professional enough. If it's too casual, you can utilize those AI tools to help you develop what that messaging would be and say, I want this 2 sentences. I want it to be cordial, but whatever it is that your
right.
vibe is in your practice. And then you can just keep talking back and forth to it. Let's talk now about how this has impacted the workflows of, say, for example, your front desk, because the front desk would be the people in most practices where they would be responsible for, got to send this communication out, got to do this, got to do that, got to do this. How has this helped them by utilizing the technology? Basically every technology company is going to be like, this is going to save you time. This is going to save your team time, all blah, 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 blah. Make it easier, automate, do this, do that. But what did you experience once you really started using these tools of how it impacted the workflows of those that are patients
Yeah.
all day, every day?
Yeah. No, it definitely has helped the workflow quite a bit because we get less appointment cancellations, things like that. I did when I first started here, the front desk had to call every day and confirm every appointment for the next day. That's a huge time suck. And our practice has only grown in the last 10 years. We have double the amount of providers that we used to have. So that workflow would have been ridiculous. We have other things to be doing. But so less manual reminding. Our forms are going out automatically. So we're preparing, not only preparing the patient for the appointment with the pre and post that we were talking about, but they're also getting any forms, any consents, anything like that. And so, everybody knows like the more we can make our schedule more efficient, the more money your practice is going to make. So if I'm not spending time getting a Botox consent before the patient's going back, and parking's bad, and then they're 5 minutes late, and then my schedule is 30 minutes behind, and then another provider's waiting because they needed that room for this, whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's making life easy for everybody.
Where do we draw the line on the
Ah,
automation?
so important.
So,
Yeah.
like, when does the automated text or the automated email become the wrong avenue? And we need to incorporate the human person to person interaction.
I feel really strongly like the automation is great, but there are so many times where it's like we do not send a text about this. Pick up even if it's not automated. Pick up the phone, talk to if somebody's upset, if somebody's
Mm,
disappointed in their treatment, if somebody's confused, all of these
mhm.
things, we want that at least in our practice. We are not a one size fit all. We are not you know, I want to cater to every individual patient. And so that's why automation is important because it frees up my front desk time so that they can have those personal conversations with patients that do need that. They do need that
Yeah.
personal touch. So the automation does not replace the team. The automation does not replace the training and the personal touch. It just protects the team from burnout so that they can
Mhm.
spend the time with the patients that need it. So, um, a patient that has you can tell they have anxiety. They're texting back to the reminders like, "Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that?" It's like pick up the phone.
Pick up the phone and call 'em.
And
Yep.
and they're, I have some younger staff members. I think it's a generational thing where it's a lot of texting back and I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. Stop. You need to pick up the
Yeah.
phone and have the
Yeah.
phone conversation because there are people dealing with complications, lots of financing questions or concerns. I mean, there's always the patients you just know they're, like, kind of more emotional and anxious, like, you gotta pick up the phone.
I love what you said about the automation is there to free up the time for us leaning into the human to human connection and the conversations that we need to have, which is the anxiety, the complication, the establishing trust, building rapport, all those things that are so critical in our patient's journey. Use the automation to get them in the important steps on the phone with somebody that can have the connection point with them.
Yeah, 100%.
In your technology stack, what do you use currently, whether there's automations or not? And are there things that you tried and that you were just like, meh, that's not going to work for us and for what we're doing in our practice?
Yeah, I mean, I think listen, nobody, like, loves their EMR. It's funny.
Nobody does.
Nobody.
Everyone hates it.
Yes, and like I was telling you when I started here, um, the one that we use, like, eh, I don't know that it was built appropriately from the beginning, and so going back and trying to fix them and there's still things that I don't love, but I realized, like, as I was calling around to maybe replace it, like, there's drawbacks with every single one. It doesn't matter, and so do the systems all talk to each other the way I want them to and all of those things?
No,
No, never. So
none of them do.
it's finding the pieces to make it all work, like the text reminders that get sent out, through my system or the review rather, that comes from a different company that basically just integrates with my EMR. So
Yeah.
it's annoying because they don't really talk to each other, but, gosh, what is the number one thing? I would say I mean, the pre and post instructions, I think for us that has been a game changer. I don't know why
Mhm.
we didn't I mean, we probably only started it 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know why we didn't do it sooner. Like you said, we were doing it on paper and, just having that, and we do have the cute little Etsy sign with the QR code up front. So that's like they're standing at the checkout desk and they're looking at my front desk person. The provider's already gone on to the next patient and they're like, "Oh, shoot, I forgot. Can I take Advil?" It's like, "Scan it right here," like, "Here it is for you." So, having that available on the website, I think, has been the biggest change for us.
And as a patient, that's what I really noted. I loved just so many things about your cadence and about the way that you utilize the automated communications and things like that. But as a patient, those pre and post op instructions, and I clicked on it and it took me to a page on your website that I would not have visited otherwise. And I was just like, oh, this is genius. This will save your provider so much time. It'll save your front desk so much time. We don't have to go through, you're going to get a text after you check out. It's going to take you straight to the website. That takes 4 seconds. Whereas you're printing, you're collating, you're putting this, that, and the other where you know what I mean? Everyone is on their phone, and so having it right there, I think is incredible. I love that. So for any listener here, to your point, none of us love our EMRs, but what I think in this whole little area that most practices are lacking is really leaning into and utilizing the tools that are there. So, say for example, maybe they're using 10% of them. What would you say is like the one thing that they should lean into that's there, that they should turn on first or that they should really investigate?
I mean, if anybody has an EMR and isn't using patient like, the appointment reminders, that's I mean, I would venture to
Basic
say,
standard.
yeah, I I feel like everybody is using the reminders. I think for us, the turning on the review link was a huge game changer for us. So that would be in addition, like to
Mhm.
those are my top two, the
Yeah.
appointment reminders and the review
Yeah.
links.
And beef up those appointment reminders with links to pre and post-op care, financing links if, those are procedures that patients could use financing in your practice. Use the automated reminders and make them worthwhile and valuable for the patient experience. I think is really what you guys do incredibly, incredibly well. No, it's like, thank you. It's fun to be a patient and thank you for coming on here and sharing your experience with that. If it can make other people's workflows better, their patient experience better, take some of that busy work off of their front desk like it has for your team and for Sam and Raquel, whom I love. If they're listening, shout out. Love you. They're incredible. It'll really help. So anything else you want to add to any of that?
No, I think you said it perfectly. I think making those reminders valuable is the most important part. If it's something that somebody's not going to read, then you've why do it? Yeah.
Yeah, why even do it? Perfect. Well, one last thing before we go. So we always do this cute little section on the pod called She Did What? Where we love to have our guests share a crazy patient story, team member story. It could be something insanely crazy that happened, like patient the first time we ever did this, they someone shared a story about someone that had brought back a medication, but it was actually Fabuloso. They used the medication and then filled the bottle with Fabuloso and brought it back,
Oh my
to
God.
get a refund. So there's, like, crazy patient stories, there's crazy team stories. If you wouldn't mind just sharing with us something you've been in practice for 10 years, so I'm sure you've seen some crazy shit. So it could be patient and it could be good too, like someone going above and beyond and out of their way, like, "She did what? She did that for her patient?" But what do you have for me, Becky?
Oh God, I actually have a really recent one. As you know, I've been training a new patient coordinator in my office, Megan. She's wonderful. And so Maddie, my other patient coordinator, and Megan and I are all currently sharing an office. So Maddie's going through new patient calls with Megan on speakerphone. So I'm like, can hear everything going on. So that she can train her, so she can hear the call cadence. And for anyone listening that works with Andrea or Lead Loop, we have kind of a list of things that we go through when we're on that new patient call for the surgical patients. And so this is a woman that wants I think it's a breast augmentation, and Maddie's kind of going through the call script, and she's like getting to the part where she's like, okay, like going to talk about recovery. So do you have anybody to help you with your recovery? And she's like, yeah, I mean, I have my friend and my boyfriend and my husband. And we were all like we're looking at each other, like, she's on speakerphone. So I'm looking back at the girls. They're looking at me. All of our mouths are wide open. And girl just keeps on going. And then we get to the point in the call. I mean, it gets worse actually. Then we get to the point of the call where
You mean better.
better.
Okay, tell
Yes.
us
We were
more.
like, I was like, what is happening today? So then Maddie starts going through, she's giving her an estimate on what she thinks the surgery is going to cost. And she gives her a range of pricing. And then we hear in the background, you know, there's a man and he's all, oh yeah, just here. Do you need my card? Do you need my card right now? And Maddie looks at me and we're all like, is that the husband or the boyfriend? We wanted to know so bad. Didn't have the guts to ask, but yeah, she was great. And of course, when she came in with her for her consult, it was like, this is the girl with the boyfriend and the husband.
And did the boyfriend or the husband come with her, or was she at console by
You know
herself?
what? I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask Maddie. I don't know, but we were just
Did she
dying.
bring 2 credit cards, one from the boyfriend for half and one from the
God,
husband
wouldn't
for
that have
half,
been the
or
best? That would have been the best.
that would've been incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, get you some, girl, work
Yeah.
it.
I was like, and how can I sign up for that?
Exactly, I love it. All right, perfect. Well, thank you again so much for being with us today. I really hope that our listeners can take some of those tidbits, the main ones, make your automated messages valuable, create content and links that you can take because you don't want to have everything in this wall of text. Create something on your website that you can just link patients to so they can link over there. And if you're going to send out your automated review requests, 7 p.m., the research shows is the time to do it. So hope to have everybody back here next Tuesday. I'm sure we'll have Becky on again. She has a plethora of great information. You've done such a great job with Dr. Rogers' office. You have an incredible team, and we're just really grateful that you were here. And to all our listeners, if you have questions, want to provide any feedback, of course, you can link us through practicelandpodcast.com, and we will be back next Tuesday.
Got a wild customer service story or a sticky patient situation? Send us a message or voicemail. If your tale makes it into our She Did What segment, we'll send a thank you gift you'll actually love. Promise, no cheap swag here.
Are you one of us? Subscribe for new episode notifications and more at practicelandpodcast.com. New episodes drop weekly on YouTube and everywhere you can listen to podcasts.